Among the many hugs, the strongest came from his father, Carlos. Sainz's farewell to Ferrari is a high-profile one, very different from Kimi Raikkonen's departure in 2019 or Sebastian Vettel's a year later. In both cases, the story was effectively over, as the stopwatch and even the driver's motivations revealed. In Sainz's case, there's no sign of decline. His story is one that has simply been interrupted. In an ideal world, Ferrari would field 3 cars next season, the only way to reconcile the valid reasons for signing Lewis Hamilton with what the track has demonstrated about Carlos Sainz's value. But there are only 2 cars, leaving a bitter aftertaste. In 2021, Carlos Sainz arrived in Maranello with 2 podiums and many question marks. 4 years later, the Spanish driver leaves as a solid professional with everything needed to secure a spot in a top team. The most jarring aspect of Carlos Sainz's 2024 Formula One championship isn't so much his separation from Ferrari, ultimately justified by the caliber of his replacement, but rather the no-thank-you responses from Red Bull, Mercedes, and Aston Martin. These teams preferred 2 young drivers, Liam Lawson and Kimi Antonelli, and an over-40 Fernando Alonso, who recently signed a 2-year extension, keeping him in Formula One until age 45. This scenario forced Carlos Sainz to join Williams, at least temporarily stepping out of the circle of drivers competing for podiums. On Sunday, at Yas Marina, Carlos kept his emotions about his last day in red to himself, successfully concealing them, or so it seemed. Carlos Sainz reflected on the emotions of his final day as a Ferrari driver, suggesting that he may have felt emotional at certain moments, such as under the helmet before the race began or during the cool-down lap. However, the Spanish driver chose to keep those feelings private, sharing them only with his team. He humorously remarked that he might have been acting a little, inspired by Brad Pitt, but emphasized that while work remained to be done, his competitiveness overrode any sentimentality. Nonetheless, he acknowledged that there were emotional moments, which he successfully concealed. In his final press conference in Ferrari overalls, Carlos Sainz expressed pride in his 4-year tenure with the Maranello team, stating that he believed he had contributed to bringing Ferrari back to competing for world championships. Although the Italian side had not achieved that goal in the 2024 Formula One campaign, he felt confident that Ferrari was ready and would be among the favorites for the 2025 season. Carlos Sainz also reflected on the challenges of the last championship, describing it as mentally demanding. Maintaining motivation and determination to perform at the highest level had not been easy, but he took pride in his ability to sustain his focus throughout the year, something he believed few drivers in similar situations could achieve. He concluded his Ferrari career on a high note by finishing on the podium in his final race. Fully aware that his next trophy might take some time, the Spaniard remained determined to help Williams return to competitiveness. While acknowledging the uncertainty of the timeline for Williams to fight for podiums, he emphasized his commitment to contributing to the team's progress and using his strengths to improve its performance. During the press conference, which was held after the race at the 5.281-kilometer Yas Marina circuit on Yas Island, joined by former teammates Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc, a lighthearted moment unfolded when the McLaren driver jokingly remarked that he would miss Carlos Sainz. The Spaniard playfully interrupted, suggesting that Lando Norris likely thought it was better this way. The British driver eventually admitted with a smile that having one less fast and formidable competitor on the grid was an advantage. However, he became serious, acknowledging Carlos Sainz's value as a driver and expressing confidence that the future Williams man would return to the fight for top positions sooner than expected, bringing significant experience and contributions to Williams's progress. Looking back at the final round of the 2024 Formula One season, in Abu Dhabi it was a matter of hope for Ferrari, that feeling to which fans of the prancing horse have clung for a lifetime, only to see it systematically turn into yet another bitter illusion. In the final round of the 2024 season, McLaren and Ferrari battled for the constructors' title, even though the significant margin held by the Woking team required nothing short of a miracle from the Maranello squad. The first lap of the race in the United Arab Emirates began in the best possible way, with Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri taking themselves out of contention at turn 1. Charles Leclerc delivered a phenomenal start, gaining an impressive 11 positions to find himself in an unexpected 8th place by the end of the first lap. However, from the first 3 laps onward, it seemed clear that unless further fortune intervened, Lando Norris was an unattainable target for Carlos Sainz. The season finale effectively encapsulated the entire championship campaign. The MCL38 had been, on average, the most competitive car since Miami, while Ferrari consistently gave its all. The Maranello team once again did its best at Yas Marina with a perfect race execution, despite the challenging weekend for the Monegasque driver. It is highly likely that the gap between the papaya-colored car number 4 and the red car number 55 could have been much larger by the checkered flag, as the McLaren driver appeared to be in complete control of the race from the early laps. In the end, it was a deserved result that could have been achieved by Andrea Stella's team even before the final round of the season. There are similarities if we consider McLaren's last triumph in the Constructors' Championship, a victory that dates back to the last century, 1998, when the historic British team made a remarkable performance step compared to the previous championship. Similarly to 1997, McLaren also finished 4th in the Constructors' standings last year. This factor partly disproves the urban legend that to win in F1, one needs geological eras of time. In fact, at the start of the previous season, the British cars were at the back of the grid. In March of last year, neither Zak Brown nor Andrea Stella could have predicted such exponential growth for the team. They themselves were astonished and have reiterated this several times in front of the media. Ferrari has also shown significant growth compared to the 2023 season, as indicated by the numbers in terms of wins and points. However, despite this, for yet another year, the Prancing Horses trophy case will remain empty. Since the last title won by Ferrari, everyone else has claimed victory, including teams that no longer exist, like Brawn GP. Being beaten by a team that has virtually disappeared from the radar in the turbo-hybrid era, following a failed partnership with the Japanese company Honda, stings quite a bit. Or at least, this should be the widespread sentiment among those who care about the future of the legendary Maranello team. In the night of Abu Dhabi, another negative record was set. Never, since the establishment of the Constructors' title, had Ferrari gone 16 years without winning. The previous period of forced abstinence occurred between 1983 and 1999. Many Ferrari fans saw themselves reflected in the dark face of Charles Leclerc, who, despite fighting for a non-individual title, strongly wanted to etch his name, alongside Carlos Sainz, in the history of the Maranello-based team. From today, it's already time to think about the 2025 Formula One season, characterized by the arrival of Sir Lewis Hamilton, who delivered an extraordinary farewell race in Mercedes colors, and especially by a technical project that can be competitive right from Bahrain. McLaren made many mistakes this season, which will be hard to repeat next year, thanks to the awareness gained. In practice, if Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri had maximized the potential of the MCL38, the driver's title might also have been in play until the end of the season. Therefore, while it's true that the car produced in Woking was the benchmark of the category, it's also important to remember that only on rare occasions was the maximum potential of the British car seen, such as in Zandvoort and Singapore. Ferrari's hope is that this year was not a wasted opportunity and that next year hope will turn into reality.